Welcome to our spring night of jazz. We have been working all third quarter and all fourth quarter getting ready for tonight so that we can present a fun concert with a nice theme for you. Just a few housekeeping things before. If you need to go to the restroom, please try to stay to the side of the tree. The restrooms are in the gym if you need to go in there. And I made a very large mistake that my husband just pointed out to me. And on the program, I left off two names, and I apologize profusely to Esther and William, who are our tuba players extraordinaire, and I forgot them on the program, but I will make it up to you, I promise. I don't know how yet, but I will. But I wanted to make sure that they get recognized because we could not have Esther's going to play with the sixth graders because we have to have that bass. You know, as Megan Trainer says, it's all about that bass, so we've got to have them. But we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. Jazz, if you see on the back of your program, this is a genre of music that was created here in the United States. It has been celebrated worldwide. It is one of the first genres of music besides gospel that is a piece of music that is to be celebrated by everybody, not just the high, almighty rich people and not the low people, but everybody. And without jazz music, we wouldn't have had strides with our country that we have had, especially when we have people like Duke Ellington and Benny Goodman, who gave the first desegregated concert at Carnegie Hall. And so we just wanted to celebrate those people here tonight, and we're going to get started with a blast from the past of that big band era and with a blast in the past. First published in 1930 by George and Ira Gershwin, I Got Rhythm quickly became a jazz standard, being recorded and used in many musicals, movies, and its chord progression being borrowed for different artists' music over the past 90 years. The Gershwin brothers had a unique style of combining elements of jazz chords and rhythms from more classical impressionistic styles of composers like Maurice Ravel and Igor Stravinsky. With the growing movie and radio industries of the early and mid 20th century, this led to major success for the brothers. And this piece is played by our 6th graders. The clarinet register key is often a curse for young clarinet players, or dogs if you have them at home, as Miss Goodson can attest. They play countless exercises to master the jump from the low register notes to the higher notes. By pressing a single register key, a note is transposed up 12 notes. And it may seem simple, but it's actually harder than it sounds to master. Unlike the saxophone's octave key, that when pushed makes the same note play up 1 octave higher, this one is a little bit tougher to master. And I'm gonna need a demonstration. So, Vivian, could you play a low G and use that octave key, or excuse me, the register key, and show everybody what it pops up to? So by pushing one note, it jumps all those notes up higher. And what is the hard part is to master those high notes so it doesn't sound like you're trying to skin a cat while it's still alive. Our 6th grade clarinets have really mastered this year, and I was so proud of them. And so when I found this piece of music called Clarinet Register Blues, it fit right in with our theme. All of our clarinets have been working to master this year, especially since our 7th grade clarinets missed this portion of last year when we were on quarantine, and it's kind of hard to teach how to play high notes with a register key over the computer. But they have done very well with learning how to play that this year. So this is a bluesy rendition of Clarinet Register Blues to show off that register key and all it can do. I could talk a lot about this next song, but I'll try to keep it brief. Briefer than what's written on here. Okay, Just a Closer Walk with Thee. I did some history research on each of these songs. No one really knows where Just a Closer Walk with Thee originated from, but there is a story that has not been refuted, but most people are thinking this is the real deal here. Most people believe that the melody and the lyrics came from pre-Civil War America, with slaves who have made gospel songs of encouragement while they're working in the fields, and those were passed down orally. It alludes to the Bible passage, "Come near to God and he will come near to you," which is James 4:8. And with this oral tradition being passed down, composer Kenneth Morris was on a train ride one time, and he exited during one of the brief stops, heard one of the railroad workers humming and singing the song. He didn't think anything of it, got back on the train, continued on to his next stop, but it was in his brain and he kept humming it and he kept singing it to the point where he didn't continue on to his destination. He got back on another train, went back to the station where he had heard it from, found the railroad worker, asked him where he had heard it from, and he told him it was just an oral tradition song. And so Mr. Morris was actually the first person to orchestrate it and put it to music so that it would be published. And he did this in 1940. This has become a very famous jazz song, especially in the city of New Orleans, where they have Dixieland jazz. As some of you may have heard or know, that with Dixieland jazz, and especially with their funeral marches, once the dearly departed has had their funeral and they are walking to the gravesite, it's very solemn. They call this music a dirge in the funeral procession. It's very mournful, but after they have buried the dearly departed, it is a party on the way back. And so with this one, we'll start off with our dirge, and we're going to kick it off to celebrate that that dearly departed is now with Jesus, having that closer walk with thee. Let's slow things down a little bit, switch it to the lighter side of jazz with Here's That Rainy Day, which is a jazz standard in itself. The music and lyrics were written for a musical that lasted for 6 runs on Broadway, and then they shut the doors. And to this day, Here's That Rainy Day is the one and only show that won a Tony for this song with a show that flopped. So, tidbit of information for you. So we have Here's That Rainy Day, and we have a couple solos in this one. We'll start off with alto saxophone with Ben, and we will have a trombone feature, and we will have a solo with Mr. Dean Bryce as well. Moving right on along. Joy in Aiken is a nonprofit organization here in Aiken that likes to bring professional performers to schools to give lessons. They give a big concert, and unfortunately this year we were not able to attend in person, but they did offer a virtual experience, which was wonderful. Our middle schoolers were able to watch Sam Ryder and do his lessons that he had from San Francisco. We watched he watched his recordings. He told them about blues. He told them about folk music. And we learned that blues was the song of the people. We learned that just like in English, blues is a poetry. It follows a pattern that has an AAB pattern, where you have a problem that is presented, and then you have your hope that things will get better. So it also has a heartbeat rhythm instead of a straight 8th note rhythm. It kind of goes da-da, da-da, da-da. And so we've been experimenting with the blues, and something that the students say that they have a lot of mournful problems with: too much homework. music for us to play for our concert. I said, well, we didn't get to play a couple pieces last year, so I was going to pull in a couple from our spring concert last year, and I gave them to our 6th graders, and they proved very quickly that everything I picked out for them was way too easy. So we had to revamp, and we found music that was more suitable for them. The other band students are tired of me saying it, but I'm going to anyway. This 6th grade class this year has blown me away. I cannot wait for our program here to continue to grow with the musicians we already have and the ones that are in 6th grade this year to move up. This is just the tip of the iceberg for what we've got coming with us. So we have In the Groove to prove that they definitely are in the groove when it comes to learning how to play their instruments. A lot of times we have a 6th grade portion of the concert, and then we have maybe one song that they play in joint with everybody else, but it needs to be said that this 6th grade class is playing 8 of the 12 songs tonight because they wanted to play with the concert band. But we needed to show you what they could do by themselves, so they had those 2 songs that they had by themselves too. We're going to move into our Latin portion of the concert, and we're going to start with the big mambo. Mambo is a style of music and dance that originated in the 1930s and 40s in Cuba. It has irresistible syncopated ostinato patterns and great brass instrument sound. You'll also hear a lot of percussion instruments like the agogo bells and the samba whistle and the claves and the timbales. So don't be afraid if you know how to do the mambo. Go ahead and get up and show everybody else how to do it while we play, okay? get set up for our percussion ensemble. We are playing Prelude in E minor by Frédéric Chopin, which is not traditionally a jazz piece, but when it was written 100 years before the jazz era, it was a piano solo written by Frédéric Chopin, but David Steinquest has put rhythm section with it and made it a nice, easy Latin groove. So we're going to get set up and then we'll get started. We're going to finish out our Latin portion with Chips and Salsa 2, not to be confused with Deck the Halls with Chips and Salsa that we did at Christmas, but we just like chips and salsa. We're going to pause for just a minute so that I can give out some band awards. I started last year asking the students to send in a form that I have that says, who do you think should win these awards? And both years, last year and this year, I am blown away by the comments that they have for their fellow students and why they believe that they should receive an award and what it should be for. So some of these are the ones that I had on the form, most improved, best musician, things like that. But some of them are because in the bottom I said, what other awards should we give? And they were not hesitant of telling me who should get what and why. So we're going to go ahead and start out with our most improved 6th grade musician, and that is Aaron Washington. Our most improved 7th grade musician is Ron Shepard. Our most improved 8th grade musician is Granger Young. Our most improved high school musician is Joseph Zeller. Our best 6th grade musician is Miss Carly Brown. Our best 7th grade musician is Miss Anna Cecilia Akins. Our best 8th grade musician is Miss Vivian Luce. Our best high school musician is Miss Esther Marks. Our most dedicated high school musician is a student who has shown up for every performance that we have, but he has been 100% virtual this year, and his dedication to practicing at home and meeting with us for virtual has been astounding. So our most dedicated high school musician is Mr. Peter Garrison. Our most dedicated 6th grade musician is a student who comes in and gets her instrument quite often and will not hesitate to say, I need to practice that a little bit more, I'm going to practice it at home, or no, I need help with it here. And it's not exactly the smallest instrument on the earth, so I'm very proud of her for sticking with it and building those muscles up and bringing that French horn home, Miss Amelia Claire Aiken. Our most dedicated 7th grade musician will be practicing hours upon hours. As a matter of fact, during Christmas break, we had lessons where she was playing not just with me, but playing at home for 2-3 hours a day, and has continued to do so in the past several months, and that is Miss Sage Sarmiento.
So I get the band in the background instead of the White House. There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Our most dedicated 8th grade musician is also someone who works a lot at home. As a matter of fact, 8th graders didn't have band this past 9 weeks because they had to take sacred studies. And every week this person would come to me and say, what do I need to work on at home? I want to make sure it's right. And that's Mr. Ben Herron. Over here, Ben.
I just want the band in the back.
We have a student who is not afraid to come into the band room no matter what time of day it is, and he will help anyone and everyone, whether it is playing their instrument, cleaning up, or just about anything else you can ask him to do for. So our Mentor Musician Award is to Mr. Dean Bryce. Our most versatile musician, this one was one that the students really came up with, and they said this student really needs to be recognized. In the beginning of the year, I can't remember if it was January or February, she had oral surgery that was pretty extensive, and she could not come back and play her flute, and she took up with no problem whatsoever, scooting right on back to the percussion section. She has done a great job learning a second and third and fourth, everything back there, instruments. So our most versatile musician goes to Miss Lily Carroll. Each year, the South Carolina Band Directors Association sponsors the Region Band, which goes up to the All-State Band, where students compete with a audition of scales. They sight read, but this year they omitted that. They have a solo. They have to be judged on tone. This year, it was all done virtually. We had to record each student who wanted to audition, send it in. Band directors, I'll tell you, this was the best year for judging ever. I got to sit at home in my own house and listen to 30 snare drum players, which is a lot better than sitting in some random middle school and listening to 130 snare drum players that are all middle schoolers. But we did have, this year was an outstanding year for our Mead Hall musicians. We actually had 7 students make it to the Region 2 Region Band. Unfortunately, due to COVID, they could not have the in-person clinic. But from those 7 students who made Region Band, we also had 3 students who were bumped up to audition for the state level competition, and one of those students made the All-State Band, and I'd like to give them their certificates at this time, and they are also going to be receiving a medal and a patch as soon as they come in. I was a little late in order on this, my fault. I'll accept the blame for that one again. But it's pretty cool. They have their medal that they'll receive that they can put in their scrapbooks, or Letterman's jackets. We were just talking, we need to get Letterman's jackets back into be a thing. You remember we had Letterman's jackets? We need these guys to have them too. All right, but we had 7 students that made it to Region Band. Miss Sage Sarmiento on flute. Miss Anna Cecilia Akins on percussion. Miss Esther Marks on tuba. Mr. Peter Garrison on baritone. Miss Tori Goodson on clarinet. Miss Caroline Johnston on trombone. Miss Vivian Luce on clarinet.
Got everyone's parts in. Shoulder to shoulder. There we go. Perfect. Good picture. Perfect. Listen.
All right. The two of you and Vivian, you stay. Okay, instead of y'all, yep, you're good. Okay. All right, so Miss Vivian Luce was also named to the All-State Band, and so I have her All-State Band certificate here as well. It's one of the fun things. All right. And we also had 2 students who participated in the University of South Carolina's Honor Band Clinic this year. And those students are Peter Garrison and Esther Marks.
Together. Let's get over the pedal.
Damn, hurry up.
One more time. There we go.
We are going to finish our concert out tonight by going to church. Without gospel music, we never would have had all these fun jazz pieces that we've had. And so we're going to do a familiar gospel piece, Oh Happy Day. Please clap along and praise the Lord, because it's a happy day. We can be here together instead of being on a computer. We've got to move everything back to the band room before it rains tonight. Thankfully, it has held out for us. So mix among yourselves, chat, or you can help us take some stuff because we wouldn't tell you no.